I don't know how to break this to you, but poker vloggers are lying to you. It's pretty funny. I used to watch poker vlogs, like the Brad Owens, the Marianos, the Rampage. I used to watch these guys and think that it was close to reality, but after I started vlogging myself, turns out there's some hidden secrets and it's kind of a load of shit. It's important to note that I still love all these guys, but vlogs versus reality, it's really not that close. Welcome to my presentation. I haven't done one of these since high school and I nearly didn't graduate, so let's go easy. Like breast implants, poker vlogs tell two big lies. The first lie is omission. Let's take Susie, for example. She plays poker 4 times, but only uploads 1. That means 75% of her sessions never see the light of day. If we look at her graph, we can see that she's actually quite dog shit at Texas Hold'em. However, she uploads these days. So in the eyes of the viewer, that's you. You're a squarehead. Fuck off. It creates this illusion that Susie knows what she's doing. She doesn't. She's delusional. It's dangerous to compare yourself to online results because when I was watching, I was like, man, these just win, 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 win. And when I go on a 5-session losing streak because I can't make a fucking pair, that's pretty discouraging. Vlogging misses out on that day-to-day emotional turmoil. It's never like this, and if it is, it won't last.
Hey, I'm editing this right now. I know I sound like I just got beaten up in an alleyway. I sound horrible. Don't, please. Okay. I'm not saying it's intentional. We're literally all guilty of this, including me. Like, you can't avoid it. Even if you pick random dates, you're still leaving out a really big part of the story, which I think goes overlooked a lot of time. I know I overlooked it when I was a viewer. Also, I've heard people say poker vloggers run like God. So just remember, it's hard to upload a 5K loss. It's easier to throw the footage in the garbage.
That brings us to our second point. If you had to summarize poker vlogs in one sentence, it's this picture. I promise it isn't what it looks like. Poker vlogs have 7 to 12 notable hands per episode. Sessions can go up to 12 hours. Poker vlogs cut out 90 to 98% of hands.
Wow.
Think about that. When you're sitting there with your Johnson in your hand jerking your weed because your favorite vlogger flopped top set, took them 7 hours to do that. It's such a skewed perspective and so far from reality. I haven't even mentioned that if you make a mistake during a session, you can just click delete. You don't even have to put it in the episode. I can't name a single vlogger that would ever do such a thing, but maybe he's out there. With all this being said, I have an idea to give you a realistic perspective. Let's go play some poker. I'm going to show you every single hand that I get dealt and how to play it. At least how I play it. That'll show you kind of like what not to do, but let's play.
A dirty window?
I don't care. It's on me. I don't give a Hello, gentlemen. It's right. Mother. Take a left. My car is broken down, so it's in the shop over the weekend. I am currently being driven by my chauffeur. We're at Seabrook right now, and I'm gonna be playing 2-5. I would have been here 20 minutes ago, but my chauffeur is a bit slow on the sticks. We will see you inside. I've never been valet before. All right, right there. Perfect.
Love you.
Love you too, mother. Look at that.
How you been, brother? Long time no see, man.
That's my boy Ali. Kid's a fish, but he has a big heart. Anyways, we hop on the 1-2 and 2-5 lists. The floor called Lowell at least 3 times. I didn't think he was going to show up, so I was like, oh, okay, we got a seat. Turns out Lowell shows up last minute, and I'm like, fuck. We ended up grabbing chips anyways, and around this time, a new 1-2 table was called. I decided to sit down and wreak havoc or potentially punt in the pond. It's going to be one of the two, boys. Let's get into hands. Here we go. I'm going to show you every single hand that I played this session. Shout out to Branson. I got the idea from him, so go check out his channel and give him some love. First, we pick up Jack 3 off from the low jack. Fold. Next, I pick up 10-7 off. Fold. Then we look down at 9-7 of hearts in the big blind. 5 players limp to me. I think the normal play is to just check and see a flop, but let's be honest. This is 1-2, where the collective IQ is that of a toaster oven. I'm an asshole. I like to play big pots. I make it $18, all right? 2 people call, and let's go 3 ways to a flop. Flop is AQ8. Good for my actual holding, good for my range. I start with a third pot. Player to my left folds, but the button comes along for the ride. Going heads up to a turn card, which, it's the Jack of Hearts. Considering it only has 110 behind, I think theory would have us check a lot on this turn card, but in practice, I think this guy has ace X with possibly a weak heart, and that hand's probably just going to check back. If I bet super small again, gives him a great price to call and makes it much less likely he's going to fold to an all-in on the river. I bet 2 Subway sandwiches, and the button decides to make the call. We go off to see one last card, which peels off the Queen of Hearts. Yikes, that is kind of ugly. Now there are 4 hearts on board, and we have a decision between jamming all in or checking. At first glance, this is a pretty ugly board, but the ace, queen, and jack of hearts are all on the board, meaning we actually have the third nut flush. I think this player would raise ace, king, and ace 10 pre-flop, so it's pretty unlikely that he has a higher heart than us. Additionally, if we check and he goes all in, I'm probably not folding. If I'm planning to call an all in, I'd rather jam myself, because if I check, he's going to check back all of his weaker flushes. And if we're planning on calling anyways, it makes sense to jam to eliminate the possibility of missing out on value. From all the weaker flushes that would just check back. That's kind of the idea. This might seem thin, but if you give me a big red button, I'm going to touch it. I'm all in. After 60 seconds or so, he says, "All right, kid," and throws in the chips. I flip it over, and this player mucks. He actually had 6-4 of hearts, so that's one of the exact hands that we're targeting, which is perfect. Glad it worked out. Next, we have Queen 5 offsuit. Get that shit out of my face. Jack 7 off. 4 players limp to me. I'm not with the 6-way limped pots. They're a recipe for disaster. Then we pick up ace queen offsuit on the button. Under the gun and low jack limp. Then the hijack raises to $12. I haven't seen him play at all, and a good amount of players at 1-2 will limp frequently, and when they raise, they're only doing it with a very, very strong range. Furthermore, he only has $200 behind, so if I 3-bet and he jams, I'm going to hate myself. If I 3-bet and he calls, the SPR is quite low, so there's not much maneuverability post-flop. With all these factors, I kind of lean towards call, but calling also sucks because if we call, then everyone else and their mother gets to see a cheap price, and we go 76 ways. Folding also sucks a bag of donkey. I don't know. None of these options feel great. I decided to call. Not in love with it, but don't hate it either. I think it's the best option for all the reasons mentioned. Anyways, like 4 other people call, so we take the B train all the way down to Shittown. Get me out of this pot. I don't care. At this point, we move over to the 2-5 table, where we pick up king deuce offsuit in the cutoff. If this were suited, this is a mandatory open, but offsuit, we need to milli rock this holding into the muck. Now we have 9-8 offsuit in the hijack. This is a fold in theory, but I actually think it's quite cuspy against a weaker table. Next, we have king 5 off in the straddle. As soon as under the gun reaches for raising chips, I've already checked out of this hand. The big blind missed his straddle, which means I have to straddle 2 hands in a row. Inside of my head, everything's on fire and I'm cursing in hieroglyphics. Pretty annoying, but we do it because we're not a baby back bitch. We look down at queen 10 offsuit. 2 players limp, and the big blind raises it up to $50. Queen 10 offsuit isn't strong enough to call, but I like to 3-bet this hand at some frequency. However, the big blind only has $150 behind, which isn't nearly enough to play for. Once again, we are visited by dog piss in the big blind. A singular shuffle later, we pick up queen 7 off in the small blind. 3 players limp. Corey, we're getting a great price. Shut that shit down. Now we have ace 7 off on the button. 3 players limp to me. If I raise in this scenario, there's 3 limpers and 3 people left to act, so 6 people still get to make a decision. I don't want to take this hand multi-way. It's pretty garbage. I just let it go. 9-6 off in the cutoff. I just kiss my cards goodbye. Here we pick up jack 3 of hearts in the straddle. Small blind and big blind limp. Let's see a free flop, shall we? Flop is booty cheeks. So someone bets and I just can't fold quicker. Now we walk through a farm of manure. The cows in the cutoff, the horses in the hijack, the pigs in the low jack. Then we pick up pocket twos in the cutoff. The positions are a bit messed up because a few people got moved to the main game. I raised to $35. The big blind calls. Going heads up to a flop of Queen 9-6 with 2 diamonds and a heart. He checks, and I don't think people call flop as wide as they should, which allows us to bet more liberally than a blue-haired chick with a sociology degree. I toss out $30, and the big blind says, sayonara, goodbye, and I said, see you later. Now we have Queen 4 of clubs in the straddle. We're in the big blind once again. We pick up Dog Piss. Now we have Snowmen in the small blind. There's no straddle for this hand. The cutoff limps, and the button min raises to $10. I bump that bitch up to $50. Only the cutoff makes the call. Going heads up to a flop of Jack 7-3 with 2 hearts. Think you could go either way between betting small or checking. I decided to check this one, and the cutoff checks it back. Going to a turn card, which peels off the ace of clubs. Yuck. That's pretty disgusting. We have showdown value. Not sure what worse hand's going to call at this point, so once again, I check. And the cutoff checks it back once more. We witness a river card, which is the 3 of diamonds. For a glimmer of a second, I think about betting, trying to get value from 4s, 5s, maybe a 7. I don't know, dude. I tap the table, he taps it right back, and we win against King High. Fuck your mom. My eyes glare directly into the dealer's soul, praying to God that I never get these cards again. Here we have King 4 of hearts in the hijack. Under the gun limps, and I isolate to $50. The small blind and under the gun make the call. Going 3 ways to a flop of Queen 7-7 rainbow. On paired rainbow boards, I don't expect my opponents to connect very often, so I'm planning on c-betting, but the small blind just open jams. And then under the gun calls. So I swiftly release. I would like to note, under the gun ended up having 8-7 offsuit, which is the guy we isolated against. So even though we isolated quite loose, it's not really what we have, it's more so what the opponent's willing to call with. On 80% of board textures, he's just going to check fold. Or hit 3 7s like an absolute wizard. I don't know. My eyes glance down at Jack 5 offsuit in the low jack. Now we have Ace 9 of hearts under the gun. I open at $35, and 4 people make the call. Going 5 ways to a flop of Jack 8-8 with 1 heart. 5 ways, I'm not going to have any bluffs. When action checks to me, I just tap the table and pray to Jesus. Action somehow checks around, so still going 5 ways to a turn card, which is the 3 of hearts. This actually changes things. When the action checks to me once again, I decide to take a stab for $75. If anyone's going to call, I think they're going to call regardless of the size, which means betting small makes the most sense. Action folds to the small blind, who decides to make the call. That's not ideal. We're going off to see one last card, hoping for some help. Poker gods, do your magic, please. Nope, that's not going to get it done. When this guy in particular calls turn, I don't think he's going to have many folds. Everything under the sun gets there. He could still have spades, a jack, 10-9 for a straight. I don't see him folding much of his range at this point. Additionally, we have a smidgen of showdown value with ace high. We still beat missed hearts that are lower than ours. I don't expect to win very often, but I don't think this is one where we need to go nuts. I tap the table, and the small blind flips over King Jack of clubs. Ship him the pot. Once again, we pick up pocket 8s in the straddle. 5 players limp to me. Now, I actually think you could go either way here between checking or raising. Considering I'm an aggressive son of a bitch, I think you know which direction I'm going. I'm gonna toss out some green chips and we'll see where it takes us. I make it $100. Under the gun decides to tag along for the ride, but everyone else gets out of the way. Going heads up to a flop of 10-7 deuce with 2 clubs. Considering there's a big card over my pair and we don't have a club, which is the front door flush draw, I'm gonna slam my hand into the felt. This player disagrees with that philosophy entirely and just open jams in my mouth for like $600 and something. I'm like, what the fuck? Dealer's like, all you can eat, buddy. And I said, fold. At this point, out of nowhere, under the gun jams all in blind. The hijack calls blind, and I look down at ace deuce of clubs in the big blind. I'm crying, swearing, screaming, thinking about why the hell can I not pick up aces. The next shuffle, we pick up pocket nines in the small blind. Under the gun, blind jam $75. Action folds to me. The big blind and straddle both have around 400 or 500 each. I'd rather isolate and raise myself. If one of these two guys happens to go all in, I'm not going to love it, but it won't be too much more, and I'm happy to get this one in. I make it 225. Both the blinds end up folding. We go heads up to quite the fun run out. I'm going to play the audio for this one. I have a pair. Pretty good pair.
You're ahead.
We got nines.
One over.
Got nines.
One over. Queen.
All right. Right in the window. All right, River's going to be a 9, though, for max damage. 10 would hurt. Real slow. 10 would hurt a lot.
That's so sick. That was good. So good. Nice job, buddy. That was a good one. Wow. Good time. Have a good night, guys.
Thanks, man.
That was fun.
Yeah, that was fun.
You're right. You did get a better one for your blog.
Next, we have King 3 offsuit. Then we look down at 6-3 offsuit in the hijack. I don't care what any other player does in this hand. If we somehow witness a flop with this holding, we need to quit Texas Hold'em. Now we have Ace-9 offsuit in the low jack. This feels a bit too loose for me. Now we have Jack-4 of clubs. Small blind, big blind, limp. I check. 3 ways to a flop of dog piss. Queen-8 of hearts in the big blind. 3 players limp. Corey, we're getting a great price. Stop it. Fold. Get out. Quick little stack update. We're sitting at $14.65, down around $35, which happens to be a steak dinner. However, I think lobster tail is more expensive, so I'm really not sweating it. This is feasible. My eyes are burning staring at this gruesome combination of cards. Next, we pick up Queen 3 of spades on the button. There's no straddle for this hand. The cutoff limps, and I decide to kick it up to $30. The cutoff had been raising all of his strong hands, so when he limps, he's basically saying, hey buddy, I have a mediocre hand. Additionally, when the blinds are tight and passive, they're folding a lot more than they should, which means I can open much wider than is theoretically acceptable. You know what I mean? So I make it $30. Everyone ends up folding. We pick up $12, and this actually happens a lot more than you might assume. At this point, if action folds to the guy to my right, I'm basically just Fortnite default dancing on his corpse and isolating over him every time. It doesn't even matter what I have at this point. I make it $50. The small blind calls, and everyone else folds. We go heads up to a flop of 5-4-3, 2 spades. He checks, could bet small or check. I decide to check, turns a 4, check, river 3. He bets 50, I snap call, and we chop against ace-jack. That was super interesting. Now we have 8-7 of hearts under the gun. I open at $35. The button, small blind, and big blind make the call. 4 ways to a flop of king 8 hiccup with 2 hearts. Diamonds, spades, got it. Do you remember that high-level analysis? Yep, same reasoning here. We're checking. Action ends up checking around. Still going 4 ways to a free turn card, which peels off a 10. This introduces another card over my pair. Let's just check. The button has other ideas. He bets 35. This bet is so small that I think about peeling, but when the small blind and big blind both call, for the love of God, one of these brothers bet they have a 10, you'd think. So 6-4 offsuit in the straddle, 5 ways to a flop of hopes and dreams, we'll say that. The cutoff bet's $25. The button, small blind, and big blind all make the call. Now, I know I said I'm against limp pots, but this situation is a little different. We're closing the action, and we're drawing to the stone cold nuts. If we bink a miracle 3 on the turn, we could get a lot of money, perhaps from a set of 2s, a set of 5s, some bullshit 2 pair, or the cutoff bet's small enough to where someone could also call with a gut shot like ace-4, and he would also make a straight except we cooler the shit out of him. It's also important that we're closing the action. For all of these reasons, I flick in a green chip and play the lottery. We go off to a turn card praying to God that Steph Curry splashes a 3 in our mouth. That doesn't happen, so now it is our time to see ourselves out. I'm going to skip hands because this video is getting long. We're going to go over 2 more hands, and both of these, I think, are the most interesting spots from the session. We have Queen Jack of Spades in the small blind. 4 players limp to me, and I raise it up to $80. I'm not expecting to take it down here, more so just thin the field or potentially go heads up. That's what ends up happening as the straddler calls, but everyone else lets it go. Going heads up to a flop of 8-7-6, all hearts. My hand and my ex have something in common. Both have no heart. On a board texture like this, I'm going to be doing nearly 100% checking, but I'm going to throw theory out the window. I think the straddler's going to have a lot of auto folds, such as spades, clubs, diamonds, ace, king, queen, jack, 10 highs, all of these stuff that whiff. With that being said, a small bet serves the best because we can get him to auto fold all of that junk. A cool thing about betting small with this hand is if we get raised, we have no equity, so I don't care. For these reasons, I toss out $55. The straddler could care less about my plans, and he decides to make the call. Pretty much done with this hand at this point. We go off to a turn card, which comes the ace of clubs. Doesn't really change the fact that I'm done. He only has around 200 behind. Gonna be tough for him to fold anything at this point. I just check, and he checks it right back. We go off to witness one last card, which peels off the 3 of hearts. I take it all back. I think we can bluff. Even though he called flop, there's a lot of hand combinations that will fold on this river. For instance, 9-8, 9-7, 7-5, 6-5, even king 9. All of these hands are going to have a really tough time calling without a heart. And I highly doubt that we can possibly win with queen high. For these reasons, kind of inclined to throw everything in the middle and pray to God that it works. I'm not really trying to fold out flushes, but there's still a lot of hands that will fold to a jam. I rip it in the guy's mouth. This guy gives me the triple threat. He nods, shakes his head, and then folds. I love the triple threat, especially when it results in money being pushed my way. We should probably do this more often. Last hand of the night. This is deja vu. We have queen jack once again. 4 players limp to me in the big blind. I raise it up to $80. However, this time, the button and small blind make the call. Going 3 ways to a flop of 9-9 deuce with 2 hearts and a club. We have a backdoor flush draw, 2 overs, a backdoor straight draw. It's a lot of optimistic jargon to say that we have queen high. However, I think my opponents are going to whiff on this texture quite often, so I toss out a small bet. The button gets out of the way, but the big blind's not done with it quite yet. Going off to a turn card, which peels off the best card in the deck, the ace of clubs. The small blind checks it over to me once again. When the small blind calls flop, I think he's either going to have a flush draw or he could have a lot of middling pairs like 4s, 5s, 6s, 7, 8s. All of these hands are miserable. I bet once again, expecting to get a lot of folds from middling pairs. However, that's not what happens as the small blind makes the call once more. We've gotten ourselves in quite the predicament. Going off to see one last card, which peels off the 2 of clubs. We backdoor a flush, but the board double pairs. And now the small blind leads for $500. My parents watch my videos, and they don't understand the poker. Mom, Dad, this is a very strong hand, but everything in my soul wants to snap fold. There are 2 glaring points that stick out to me. Number 1, this guy doesn't bet his bluffs. When he calls turn, he's going to have hearts or a 9, right? We expect him to fold all of his middling stuff. And if he's not betting any of his missed draws, that leaves him exclusively with full houses. If I fold this hand, I'm literally never calling when he bets. I'm either jamming over the top with bigger full houses, or I'm folding. It's so annoying. I'm getting a great price, too. It's actually just disgusting. If he can come up with a singular bluff in the fiber of his soul, then I'm over. I can't, dude. If I fold and he has a bluff, that would make me feel like an idiot. I don't know. After a few minutes, I decided to fold. The small blind flashes the 9 of diamonds. All right, boys, we were in for this, out for that. This is my boy Ali, aka my Uber. So yeah, that was an average session. No aces, no big pocket pairs, boredom. By the way, I'm somewhere special, which you'll find out next episode, but I think I played good today too. Well, then. Get out of here.